Welcome to the Betting Above the Rim podcast. Today's date, December 30th, episode 109 in our podcast, the last podcast for 2024. Happy early New Year, I would say, to you and yours. Let's get started with our tip-off topics with another major trade in the NBA taking place over the weekend as they finally did it. They finally got rid of him. D'Angelo Russell just got traded from the Los Angeles Lakers, along with Maxwell Lewis and 3 second-round draft picks to the Brooklyn Nets for a package that included Dorian Finney-Smith and Shake Milton. This was obviously according to Shams. And it really looks at a situation that it had to be done, folks. If you look at D'Angelo Russell and his performance, his second go-around with the Lakers, it really did not really – there's almost a tale of two D'Angelo Russells. There's a D'Angelo Russell during the regular season, 22-23, 17.4 points per game, 48.4% from the floor, 41.4% from three, right? 23-24, 18 points a game, right? 46% from the floor, 41.5% from three. So we're like, oh my God, that's really, really good, right? And then you go to D'Angelo Russell in the postseason, 22-23. Then he goes to 13.3 points per game, 42.6% from the floor, 31% from three, and then 31.8% from three in 23-24. So basically what you had is a guy that really performed well in the regular season and poorly in the postseason. But they talked about trying to get rid of D'Angelo Russell from last year. They couldn't do it. Came into this year, and then this year, ready? 26.3 minutes. That's the lowest of his career. 41.5% from the floor. That's the lowest since 21-22 with Minnesota. 33.3% from three. That is the lowest of his career except for his first year in Brooklyn in 2017-2018. So they had to move him. And someone had to go here. Now, when you look at what it could mean for, let's take it for Brooklyn side. I think they just did it for the draft picks. They're not doing it just to win games. They're not trying to make a playoff run. I expect the Nets to be extremely active. Other players could be moved. Could they move Nick Claxton? I don't know. Obviously there's already been a talk of Cam Johnson. They've already moved Dennis Schroeder a week ago. So they're going to keep making moves, the Brooklyn Nets, to get rid of guys. So I don't even know if this is even D'Angelo Russell's last stop, to be perfectly honest with you. Let's look at it from the Lakers side. Number one is this puts an extreme amount of pressure on Vincent. If you go look at the roster with the Lakers, listen, AD has been 26 and 11 and a half, 2 blocks. He's been great. LeBron at Father Time, I know he had a stretch where he didn't score the ball well, still getting you 23.5 points per game. Austin Reeves, 17.7. But this is where the drop-off happens, right? Rui Hachimura, he's giving you 12.5 points per game. That's not good enough for Rui Hachimura, getting you 13.5 points per game last year. And then Rui Hachimura, that really hasn't done a whole lot in the playoffs. So when you start digging and looking at other players in the Lakers, well, who else has to step up? I told you, it's Gabe Vincent. Gabe Vincent is getting you 4.3 points per game, 1.3 rebounds. They're not even starting him. Played 7 minutes the last game. They basically have said to him, we're going to go ahead and we're going to play Max Christie, who's been decent, okay? 7.2 points per game. I think that's pretty decent. 36% from three. Listen, at the end of the day, when you look at the Lakers, they have to have guys that can spread the floor and make shots, okay? But as much as this is about getting rid of D'Lo, it's the pieces that they brought in to this team that I think is going to help. Dorian Finney is a pro. Dorian Finney-Smith is a defender. Dorian Finney-Smith can play the two. I mean, not the two. He can play the three. He can play the four, right? So he gives you something there. Shake Milton is someone who can come off the bench and be your backup two guard. They're not getting it out of Cam Reddish, right? They're now trusting Max Christie. They have to get more out of their bench, right? So that they can't lean so much on LeBron and AD. So I think this is what it's more about is, yes, it's addition by subtraction for getting rid of someone like a D'Angelo Russell, right? But it's also the ability of bringing in Dorian Finney-Smith and Shake Milton, two guys that could fortify the Lakers bench, and two guys that when capable, Dorian Finney-Smith, 10.4 points per game, but Dorian Finney-Smith was shooting 43.5% from three. I can't stress you enough. You got to surround AD and LeBron with shooters. Staying in the Pacific Division, Mike Brown got let go late last week. And this has got me so damn angry what they did to this guy. Okay? This guy was coach of the year 2 years ago. Look at that last game versus Detroit. Now, it's amazing how all of a sudden De'Aaron Fox has come out saying, oh, we had this great relationship. This is the guy I wanted to play for. But you didn't sign an extension with Sacramento for the guy you wanted to play for. So I feel like De'Aaron Fox is kind of talking out of both sides of his mouth here. But also the same De'Aaron Fox that on the last play, down three or up three, strong side corner three, which is the easiest three-pointer to make, instead of being in the gap, being able to contest a shot, he fouls Jaden Ivey because he's in poor, lazy defensive positioning. You want to talk about guys that I'm upset with? Folks, go look at DeMar DeRozan's track record. 16 years in the NBA. 7 times he's been in the playoffs. DeMar DeRozan with the Toronto Raptors, losing record overall. With the San Antonio Spurs, losing record overall. With the Chicago Bulls, losing record overall. Same thing with Sacramento. Stop looking at coaches, folks. Look at the players. This is a clown show organization in Sacramento. They let the guy run the practice and leave the building, have a press conference, and then you fire him on a cell phone call while he's in a car. Shame on you, Sacramento. You haven't been good since Chris Webber, White Chocolate, Vlade Divac, Corliss Big Nasty Williamson, and obviously Rick Alleman as a coach. No one wonder why you've been a joke for the last quarter century. Let's move on. We lost an icon in Greg Gumbel. Well, I didn't even know was sick. Died at the age of 78. And as a black male, seeing someone who looks like you on the television screen was something that was great. So Greg Gumbel, Brian Gumbel, his brother, they are so important to me and a lot of black men and women that are involved in this industry. Rest in peace to the great Greg Gumbel. Folks, it's the end of the year. You know what that means? Conference play is upon us, starting this weekend. So the best way for us to tackle this podcast is coming after the commercial break. I'm going to go through the ACC, the Big East, the Big Ten, the Big 12, and the SEC, and I'll give you who I think is going to win each of those conferences. It's going to be a really exciting year in college basketball. We've talked about the greatness of the SEC, but I want to get into some of these other races that are going to be intriguing. So after this commercial break, our award tour will feature my pick for those 5 leagues coming up after the commercial break. This is the Betting Above the Rim podcast. We'll be back after this commercial break as I give you my award tour and my picks to win 5 leagues in college basketball after the commercial break. Welcome back to the Betting Above the Rim podcast. Folks, I also have to start the award tour. This Sacramento Kings thing has got me so angry and so fired up. I gotta go. I gotta come back to it. I have to come back to it because I want you people to realize what a clown show of an organization this is. Okay, they had something with Mike Brown, right? Let me tell you something, folks. Rick Adelman was the last coach before Mike Brown. Ready, folks? To even have a winning percentage of higher than .425. So let me tell you the clown show that is the Sacramento Kings. And I'm not calling the coaches a clown show. I'm calling the organization a clown show. Ready? Eric Musselman, Reggie Theus, Kenny Natt, Paul Westphal, Keith Smart. Oh, Michael Malone. Yeah, the one that won a championship in Denver. Tyrone Corbin, George Karl, borderline Hall of Famer, Dave Jager, Luke Walton, Alvin Gentry. The one with the highest winning percentage out of all of them is Luke Walton at .422. So when you sit there and you go out there and you publicly say, oh, we think he underperformed, and for the fact that the Sacramento Kings, folks, fired this guy on a cell phone call after practice and a press conference, and not only that the players addressed the media before the front office did. What does that tell you, folks? What does that tell you? Like, you know what? Honestly, at the end of the day, good for Mike Brown. Give him his damn checks. And you see the NBA coaching fraternity, Michael Malone and Steve Kerr, two guys that backed him, came to his defense. And then, like I said, you saw De'Aaron Fox come out today and talk about this great relationship he had with Mike Brown. Let me tell you something right now. It's on the players now. And they came out with a 132-122 loss. So Doug Christie, a former great player that played for Rick Adelman, that team is a damn clown show. And they should all be ashamed of themselves. And I was all about light the beam. I took the beam. I took the light bulb. I smashed it to the ground. And I'm not playing that light the beam ever again. Get out of here with that mess. Let's move on to college basketball. Oh, it's almost out of time already. Here we go. ACC Award Tour. Duke, leaders in the clubhouse at -230. Clemson, 5-1. North Carolina, 8-1. Jeff Capel, 13-1 with Pitt. SMU, 22-1. Wait, SMU is in ACC? Yes, they are. Louisville, 55-1. NC State, my man's not there. DJ Burns no more. 95-1. Wake Forest, Notre Dame. Stanford's in there too? Yeah, it's called conference realignment. Folks, it's simply put, it's Duke's to lose. Okay? They have way too much talent with Cooper Flagg leading that bunch that they should absolutely win the ACC. But I can't do that, right? It doesn't make sense for me to lay -230, right? So if I look at the Atlantic Coast Conference, where am I looking? Folks, I'm going to say it. It's Carolina 8-1. They got too much talent. You know, with Davis and Tribble in the backcourt, and Cadeau, they have enough talent that they can get it done. And Hubert Davis's teams tend to get hot. Here's the issue with Carolina. Simply put, it's first halves. If they can play better in first halves, they're going to win more games. Sleeper pick, Carolina 8-1. I don't know if it's a sleeper pick, but not chalk pick to win the ACC at 8-1. Moving on to the Big East, Marquette +175 along with UConn. St. John's +240. Creighton 10-1. There's my Villanova Wildcats 42-1. And then Xavier, Georgetown, really good job by Ed Cooley this year with him. Kim English's team 140-1, so on and so forth. Seton Hall, oh my God, I came in and explained those are my guys. Folks, I'm going to take St. John's. I'm going to take St. John's because I do believe that style, Rick Pitino's got that team playing well. They play exciting brand of basketball, and there's nothing like St. John's in the Garden. And if they get in the Garden and they get on a run, they can win the tournament. I like St. John's at +240 If Pop Isaacs did not get hurt, I would have taken a chance at creating a 10-1. They just don't have the guard play. Let's move on quickly to the Big 12. Houston plus 160, Iowa State plus 200, Kansas 5-1, Baylor 14-1. To me, this is Houston. Listen, they don't play the defense that we expect them to play year in and year out. But when they play non-conference teams, they lock teams up. They have the best defense in the league. I know TJ Ossenberger can speak to maybe he thinks he has that at Iowa State. But Houston losses Auburn, Alabama, San Diego State in overtime. They're playing much better. Give me Houston at plus 160. To the Big Ten, UCLA, UCLA's in the Big Ten? Yeah, they are. 4-1 along with Michigan, 5.5-1 for Michigan State, 6.5 for Maryland, 7-1 for Purdue, 8-1 to Illinois, 10-1 Oregon, so on and so forth. Folks, two sleepers. Illinois, are you ready for this? The Rutgers Scarlet Knights at 55-1. If these kids could score, they're going to defend. 55-1 is a crazy number for Rutgers. I think they can get there, but the main pick, Illinois, at 8-1. Last one, SEC, the loaded league, plus 120, 135 for Auburn, 260 for Tennessee, 430 for Alabama. Kentucky 11-1, Florida 12-1. For me, Auburn's the best team in the country. Johnny Broom's the best player in the country, and Bruce Potter is coaching like the best coach in the country. This one will get wild because it's all about matchups and who plays who's playing well. You can literally say that everyone from Auburn all the way to Florida at 12-1 all have a legitimate chance of winning the SEC. This is going to be a fun league to watch. Coming up after the commercial break, we'll get into my scouting report. We'll preview 5 games, 3 in the NBA, 2 in college basketball, and my buzzer beater, why I talk about the NIL and the craziness of college basketball. This is your Betting Above the Rim podcast. We'll be back after the commercial break for the scouting report and my buzzer beater. Back after this. Welcome back to Betting Above the Rim podcast. Let's get into our scouting report as we'll break down 5 games overall between the NBA and the NCAA. And let's start off with a big matchup tomorrow night between Milwaukee and Indiana. Folks, when you look at this, Indiana's been playing, listen, they've been up and down. They've lost the last 2 games, but it was Oklahoma City and it was Boston, right? So you could kind of look at the fact that they've lost to pretty good teams. They won the previous 3 games before that, all 3 of those games in a row. Meanwhile, the Bucks, even though they won the NBA Cup, have lost 3 of the last 5 games. And look at the losses. At Chicago, home Brooklyn. So to me, you have to look at Indiana here. Probably the over is the other play as well you want to look at with this game. The game should be up and down because that's the way, the Pacers are going to want to play it against an older Milwaukee team. So that would be the way I would look at this game, is look at the over and then look at a tight game with the Indiana Pacers should be able to get the win versus the Milwaukee team that's been wildly, wildly inconsistent. And best of all, 5-9 on the road this year. Second game we'll take a look at is Cleveland at the Lakers. Now, when you look at this matchup, to me, it's all about the play of Spider Mitchell. When you look at the Lakers, I don't see a perimeter defender that can kind of stay with Spider. I know he's only at 23.5 points per game, but he came off a 33-point performance versus a big win that they had at Denver. So to me, with scoring 149 points, the Lakers, listen, they can give up points and give up points in bunches here. I do think even though they're coming off a 132, 122 win, I look at Cleveland here, and I definitely want to look at Donovan Mitchell to go over his points prop. They're going to probably hang this at about 22, 23 and a half. I can see Donovan Mitchell going for 25 plus in this matchup. Next matchup, Grizzlies versus Suns. It's a battle of two Grizzlies teams, folks. Grizzlies healthy, Grizzlies not healthy. When the Grizzlies are healthy, they're as good as anybody in the West. And that's why their odds are starting to show it, as I do believe they're the second favorite to win the Western Conference behind Oklahoma City. Won 4 of the last 5 games. Only loss was versus the Clippers. The Suns are in a bad way, folks. They lost 4 of the last 5. They're under 500. Got to remember, Yusuf Nurkic got in the fight with Najee Marshall, so he's out for a couple more games. So I do think he misses this game. You got to realize that also no Devin Booker as of late. So to me, no Devin Booker if he doesn't play. And then you have a team that's playing really well in the Memphis Grizzlies. Give me the Memphis Grizzlies. It should be a short line here, but it'll probably be Memphis Grizzlies. Plus the points would be the play. Remember, my scouting report on Tuesday will have plays on all 3 of those games. Let's move to the college action now, with St. John's heads to Creighton. St. John's playing really good basketball under Rick Pitino. I've talked about this, folks. I just said in the last segment where I think that St. John's could be my team to win the Big East. But this is a tricky spot here for game number 3, because they're already 2-0 in league here, versus a Creighton team that's 1-1. Folks, Creighton got blown out in a bad way at Georgetown. They lost at Alabama. But, folks, they also have a home win versus Kansas. They also have Ryan Kalkbrenner, who could be a problem. St. John's, listen, they're playing good basketball. They're 11-2. But I don't know if they've played the quality of competition. So I'm going to take a look at Creighton getting a win at home. Last one, UConn versus Chris Holtman's done a great job with DePaul. I'm going to go ahead and take UConn minus the points. I know they did not cover the spread against Butler. I expect a better performance out of the UConn Huskies and get the win versus Chris Holtman, who's done a really, really good job with the DePaul Blue team. It's the first time I think they've been relevant since the days of Joey Meyer. Let's head to our buzzer beater. And I saw something earlier today about 6 former players that played for 23-24 just sued Leonard Hamilton for non-payment of $250,000 each in NIL. They actually tried to not practice. Folks, here's the problem. This is the wild, wild west. I can't take it anymore. Coaches are leaving. I can't stand it. And then you got the coaches that are cheating, calling players that are already on rosters, guaranteeing money for next year. The NCAA has a mess. They have to clean it up. The problem is they're the biggest gangsters out there. I don't think they can do it. This has been your Betting Above the Rim podcast for December 30th. For all things sports gambling, download the SportsGrid app. Pre-game, in-game, post-game, props, predictions, and more from the very best in the sports gambling industry. On behalf of myself and my producer, Matty George, and Vinny does a great job with the graphics. We want to wish you guys a happy new year from us and all our family at SportsGrid. And speaking of SportsGrid, remember, it's smarter to be on SportsGrid. Good night. Happy New Year.